Hey everyone, how's it going? Bowser the Healer here, and today we're going to be talking about Mistweaver in Season 2 and why I think this class is looking so strong into the next season. Now, I'm going to start with the tier set, the patch notes, and talking a little bit about the class before I get into why I think it's so strong. However, before we get started, I just want to say if you like the video, please hit the like button, get subscribed. It means the world to me. There's a lot of new faces here. I got a lot of subscribers in my last couple uploads, so hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. We'll get more introduced to each other in the next video. I'm going to talk about my Season 2 roadmap, and so I'll probably have some questions for you all to answer down in the comment section, but welcome. So let's get into it because there's a ton to talk about. First things first, the 2-set bonus, Renewing Mist, has a chance to grant Soulfang Infusion, granting 3% of your maximum mana over 3 seconds. The 4-piece, Drinking a tea or getting Soulfang Infusion increases the healing of your Vivify and Renewing Mist by 40% for 6 seconds. So we both get it randomly through the Renewing Mist procs of Soulfang Infusion, or if we slam something like Thunder Focus Tea or Healing Tea. I'm mostly going to be talking about Mythic Plus, you all know who I am, but I think this sounds really awesome for raiding. When I get my hands on raiding with Mistweaver, I'm going to give it a bit of a test run. That sounds really fun to me. But what does this mean for us Mythic Plus players? And by the way, raiders, please tell me down below how you feel about this. So as a Mythic Plus player, this sounds awesome. The 4-piece, just to start, gives us access to a new combo. I'm gonna be a little slow about it here, but essentially you can hit Thunder Tea Enveloping Vivify for a very fat heal. And I'll tell you when it stops ticking, about 228,000 this time around. That's a pretty nice heal when you consider that I'm item level 417 and there's that was an OGCD and 2 GCDs. Anytime we get access to another strong healing combo as like a class, I think the tier set is good. If it's providing more healing utility, that's great news. And so I really like this 2-set or the 4-set bonus for that. That'll be fun. But it's that 2-set, because if you've played Mistweaver, you already know. But for those of you who don't know, when this class is just using Ancient Teachings, it's single target rotation to heal, or it's doing AoE healing on top of a Feyline, which if you haven't seen, I'll have some footage here. Absolutely nuts. I'm doing like 50k damage per second and we're healing like 80k for just spinning. It's quite incredible if you ask me. But the thing is we're pretty mana positive. We don't run out of mana very easily. It looks good. When we're constantly having to spend big spells and throw out big heals between pulls, or like a pull after pull, excuse me, you just run out of mana. This is probably the class that has to take the most drinks out of all classes because the mana recharge is just not the greatest. So having that kind of fixed for us is pretty high up on my list of things I wanted them to change about Mistweaver. And it's part of my final 2 complaints. My last complaint about Mistweaver is that I'll have some footage here as well. In Shadowmoon Burial Grounds, Whispers of a Dark Star goes off and I heal it with Shayloons. And then everyone gets a little bit hurt from the end of it, so I go to heal them with Ancient Teachings. And I'll punch in here, but like, it's very spiky, right? It just heals a random injured target, and so you can lose heals, you get some inefficient heals, and while it does get the job done, this inconsistency can be pretty frustrating and forces you to use other forms of heals in scenarios where if it just worked correctly, you probably could have gotten away with just using Ancient Teachings. And thankfully, that's been addressed as well. Ancient Teachings now heals up to 5 injured targets within 30 yards for 150% of the damage done, split evenly among them. I do want to note, every once in a while, this is 300 and something percent of damage done. I don't know if that's a bug. I don't know if it's not tracking correctly. I'm not sure if it's a problem with the PTR. So maybe that value will change. We'll see on patch day. But the end result from my testing was that if 1 or 2 targets are healed, it's split evenly among the 2 targets. If it's 1 target, all the healing goes to them. If it's the whole team, it looks pretty slow. It does raise the health bars up very slowly. However, that's not a big deal. I had a friend who was worried that that was a bit of a nerf, but no, because if the whole team gets hit, you're not going to use Ancient Teachings unless it's completely safe, like that Whispers of a Dark Star moment, right? The move is over, we're hurt, but there's not a lot of damage coming in. I can just use Ancient Teachings. So if you're normally going to pop a cooldown, this just means that we get even more consistent, more reliable healing through Ancient Teachings, and I love that. And like, let's say the tank's getting blasted and you're healing them with Ancient Teachings, and then someone else takes a little bit of damage, it just lowers the amount of healing that the tank's receiving for a little bit. And then once that player's back to full, the tank will be receiving the full benefit again. And that's not a bad thing. But before, it could like only focus the tank and not heal the person who took a little bit, or all the healing would go into the person who took a little bit of damage, and like the poor tank's just sitting there like, please, healer, help me. So I like that the consistency is now here. There's one other change that's really nice. Feyline Stomp, this is essential for your Ancient Teachings, your Cleave, your AoE heals with Spitting Crane Kick. However, while you do get a lot of resets while on Feyline very easily, if you happen to not get a Feyline reset, or your tank moved the pack out, or you shot this into Narnia and your team's going the other direction and you have to sacrifice it, 30 seconds sucked. That was an eternity to go without the cooldown. Reducing 10 seconds off that, I think, is going to make it a lot less punishing, make it slightly easier to new players and to veterans who just make mistakes. So all that being said, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, but Bowser, you said this healer's really strong. Why don't I see that anywhere? Well, you know, it's not the most popular for MDI and Race to World First. I mostly know in the MDI it's been picked like once or twice ever. It's just not very strong because it doesn't provide massive damage increases to people like PI. It doesn't grant some immunity or something to players that other classes might get. I mean, just look at like Spirit Link Totem on Shaman, right? Like that's a utility that just doesn't exist, that allows you to survive some things that maybe you wouldn't be able to survive normally. But let's remove ourselves from Race to World First in MDI, which is a specific form of content. Metagame is defined by what we're doing. And if we talk about typical Mythic Plus, we're just trying to time some keys under regular or maybe some extreme pulls. We're just trying to get a nice normal run done. I think it's absolutely S tier. I think this is one of the best pug carry heals in the game. Granted, pretty high skill floor. It takes a lot to learn this class and get really good with it and use all of its tools, but it provides the utility and the healing throughput that will carry so many pug groups. First of all, yes, its throughput is some of the best in the game, but just as a quick little overview for those of you who don't know the class, you have 3 defensives, one of which counts as a personal dispel. You have a mass dispel, disease and poison dispel, and magic, of course. You have access to paralysis, a single target incapacitate at a 30-second cooldown, Ring of Peace, an AoE knockback 45-second cooldown, leg sweep, a 1-minute AoE stun. And then if you play like Tauren or you play Panda or something, you get your racial CC to be included in that. You get a D root and the thickest external shield in the game, 276,000. And when you talent it, it also applies Renewing Mist and Enveloping Mist to the target, and it increases their healing over time received by 50%. This class is nuts in terms of what it can bring to the table. And remember, it's got a kick, a 15-second kick. Yeah, Mistweaver's got what you need to survive a pug. It will help carry groups that don't know how to CC, or there's only like 1 or 2 people kicking, and you provide so much more to that group because you're playing Mistweaver. Granted, it's challenging. I think it's right up there with Discipline Priest in terms of brutally hard. And so, while it is fun to learn, there's a skill curve, and you could go the mist weaving route where you don't fist weave as much or at all, which is easier, but it's not very mana efficient, and at higher levels of play, it simply doesn't provide enough damage. So honestly, I really think that it's something special, but it's challenging. But with the new tier set fixing some of the few problems I had, providing another healing cooldown combo, I just think that Mistweaver's sitting somewhere incredibly strong. Now, I will do my best to get into some Mythic Dungeon testing this weekend when it's available to us so that I can try out some of these changes personally, but I love it. I love where Mistweaver's going. It felt good season 1, and as it kept getting buffed, it went from good to great to, I think people are sleeping on this one. So I want to bring some awareness to it. Let me know your thoughts on Mistweaver and what you think of the class in general, and I will put out a final feeler out there. If you're a DPS main that plays melee, that's trying to get into healing, go to Mistweaver. Trust me on this one, go to Mistweaver. It's technical, it's challenging, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. And that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and of course, I'll see you all in the next one. We talk about my Season 2 roadmap a bit. Take care, friends. I will see you all soon.